Hi, parents. My name is Lou, and I'm very happy to be here. It's a great honor to speak to the HS2 parents again. For those of you who don't know me, I'm certified college funding specialist. My specialty is in college financial aid planning, strategy, and application. And this year, I know many parents are very concerned about the financial aid planning process, because FAFSA has been delayed until December. Unlike the previous years, it started in October 1st. CSS Profile, on the other hand, is pretty much still the same, unchanged. And not many people like to talk about CSS Profile. Why? Because it's very complicated and it has many questions. And but this is what we're going to do. And we are going to talk about the CSS profile. I'm going to give parents the best advice how to complete this form. And I'm also going to share with you my many years experience on helping the parents how to avoid making mistakes when you fill out these forms. What are the most important items in this form? So hopefully by the end of this session, you will feel a little bit more confident and that you can feel good about it to complete this, this form by yourself. So let's just begin. What is CSS Profile? So CSS Profile is a college financial aid application form that is mostly tailored for private school. And it's mostly for schools with large endowment. So mostly private school. And I noticed recent years, there were some public schools that also joined this CSS Profile system. So make sure that you check the school first. And many more questions compared to FAFSA. It asks you all the questions about your family financial, full picture, that's what they want. Because the CSS Profile application allows the private schools to do a more accurate financial aid calculation. Every school might take your information and do the different calculation method. But by providing the accurate information, you actually allow the school to provide financial aid more tailored to your needs. And important thing when you open the CSS Profile main page, be sure for the senior parents, be sure that you choose the 2024 to 2025 year. Do not go to this year, that's not correct. Do the 2024 and the 2023 5 year. Before you start filling out the form, I always say preparation and the get ready is more important. The first important document that you need to have it ready is your tax return. For the senior parents, you need to have your 2022 tax returns. If you have business, you will need to have your business tax return ready as well. And the second one is the W-2 and the 1099. If you don't have it, that's fine. Assets, make sure that you get your latest statement for your 529 plan, your bank statement, and which include your CDs, your saving account, your checking account from both parents, investment balance, which is from your investment portfolio, like your stock and mutual fund account. What you want is the latest statement to have it ready. For housing, not just your investment home information, you also need to get the information about your primary home. Later on, we're going to share with you what information is required. Retirement account, unlike FAFSA, you do need to get the most current balance from your retirement account. That include your 401k, your IRA, your SEP IRA, your Roth IRA, your annuity, anything that's in the retirement portfolio. Now, I always encouraging parents to get your students' college list and to get the CSS code from each school first before you even start opening the application. So these are the list of things that will help you, really will save you a lot of time when you start completing the form. So make sure that you get those ready. And login and passwords are very simple. The student already has it. It is the same login and password that they use for taking the SAT exam and for taking the AP exam. So it's most likely the login is student's email address and they do have their password. So you do not need to recreate another one to make sure that to communicate with them and they have it. Now, on the homepage of the main page, on the home page, they will have a place on the left bottom corner, I'm sorry. And it will allow you to check the participating schools and the scholarships. So you need to click that learn more to get the CSS code for the school that your student is applying. It's very important. To do it in a simple way, I always just filter the state. If you know the school's location, you can just filter the state and then select the school name and write it down the CSS code, because later on when you fill out the form, it's much more efficient. And CSS code is important. And then you can select the domestic student, yes, because most of our students are American citizen or green card holder. So you are considered the domestic student. Make sure you select yes. For the international student, I don't know, do we have it? Probably. For international student, that you can click yes for the international student. Some schools do accept application from international student. Now, very important for families that are with separate or divorced family parents, this information is important too. It tells you whether or not this particular school will require non-custodial parents' financial information. So you can take a look. Some schools, they don't really care the non-custodial parent. They just want the custodial parent. Like for instance, we see here the others, college art and design, they don't require that. So you know that. And the last part is the IDOC. That is the section that allow you to see those schools that require you to upload documents. So it's really helpful, just this one information page, and allow the parents to see, first of all, the most important thing, whether the school that your student is applying that requires the CSS profile or not, right? And then the other thing that I want to point out, for some schools, they might have multiple CSS code. So it's very important that you check with your student. Like for instance, I always say the Columbia school is one classic example. They have 8 CSS profile code. So you need to make sure which school your student is applying. So you put in the correct CSS code. Very, very important. Do this. It's going to help you later on. You know, make sure that you do it right. And also always check the states and to make sure that's the school, because sometimes schools has the similar name, but they are in different states. Okay. So CSS profile, unlike FAFSA, it does cost fees and the charges when you apply. General application fee is $9, and that's a flat fee. And each school, you will need to add $16. So let's just say that you apply for 10 schools. Your cost will be $160 plus $9. So it's $169. Now, if your income is less than 100,000, which is your 1040 AGI, then you are waived. You don't need to pay anything. Once you in-plug your income, this waive, and let me just show you. The fee waiver eligibility thing will pop up. And that's the time that you know your fee has been waived. If you don't see that, then at the end of the application, you will be charged. Now, many parents are very concerned because they have ED and EAs. And I can tell you from my experience, some ED schools, they start their deadline for financial aid application is as early as November 1st, which is like in a couple of days. And the majority of the EDEA schools, the deadline for college financial aid application is on the 15th. So you want to make sure that you submit your EDEA timely. Don't delay it, and make sure that you get in before the deadline. RD can be later, regular decision can be later, and my suggestion is to wait until FAFSA is available and you do it all together in December. Now make sure you will submit the CSS Profile application before the deadline, and make sure you check every school. Every school is very different, so don't just assume it's November 15th. Do a double check to make sure. There is a reason nobody want to talk about CSS Profile, because it's just so many questions and it touches so many different areas and it changes. Some different families, they have different questions based on your financial status. So what we're going to do, I'm not going to go through each question. There is hundreds of them and we won't have time for that. But I want to highlight the important questions so that you're avoiding making mistake. You want to do it accurately. So one by one, I'm going to just briefly explain, and then certain area I'm going to do the further explanations. Getting started is very easy. It's just your students' information, their date of birth, their social security number, and their status. Parental relationship is very important. This is the place that they're going to ask who is your parent, because your student is a dependent student. So it will need to know who's your mother and the father, or stepmother, stepfather. Those information will need to be answered in the parental relationships. Resident is the simplest section in this whole form, and it's just which state you're currently in. That's your resident. California, Texas, which school you're going to, in what state, that's your resident. Pretty much, self-explaining. Academic information, this one I'm going to talk about it later, how to fill out the forms here. Parent detail, very simple. Same thing like the student detail, just parent's social security number, date of birth. And in this session, they will ask you your education level. So make sure that you fill out correctly, whether it's a college graduate or high school graduate. That's the area that they want to know whether the parents have been to college or not. Parent income, we're going to spend some time to talk about income because most questions come from income. And the parent employment, make sure that you have your employer's address, employer's name, and how long you have worked there, your occupation. And this is for employment only. And then housing information, I'm going to spend some time to talk about it. The ones with circle, I'm going to talk about it, so don't worry. Household summary, this is where you put your family members' information in, like how many children do you have, whether you have some elderly live in the household. So you can put all their information in, and you will need to put their birth date. So everybody's date of birth is important. Child support, if you're separated or divorced family, do you pay other than your children? Do you have other family that you need to support? This section will allow you to put the information in. Parent expenses, they will ask about medical expense, if you have excessive medical expense or not. So those are also quite simple. I mean, for majority of the families with the insurance, your medical expense is not going to be horrendous, right? Parent assets, be very careful in this session, and it does get confused. Make sure you read the question right. When they ask you asset, they ask you separately. They ask you your cash, your savings, all the bank information separate than the investment. So make sure that you separate them. Don't group them together and give them the false information. So just make sure. Student income, it's simple, but there is a hidden question there. I'm going to explain to everybody later. And student assets, hopefully by now, parents know that your student do not need to have a lot of money in the bank. If they still do, then you might want to just take a look at it and to see what you can do. I mean, like just to do an evaluation. Special circumstances, I'm going to explain it because it's so special, so don't worry about it. Personally, I believe the CSS profile should be completed by parents, not students. So if parents, if you still think your students can finish this form, you're wrong. This is the form that even adults have a hard time to complete. So don't expect your student to complete this form. It's your job to make sure the financial information are entered correctly, accurately, to help you. I mean, you know, to allow the school to evaluate, to calculate, to help you. So be sure to take this a bit serious. Okay, academic information. In this session, they're going to ask you the high school. High school is a lot of parents have a hard time to figure this out because sometimes the high school that you select, it's not in the list. And there is no simple way, there is no code or anything. So you just need to do a little bit more research. Like I always recommend parents, go to the school website to see, other than this name, what other name they might have. Try the different names. You always find it. But if for some reason you still can't find it, don't worry about it. Just manually enter the high school. That's fine. Now, the college list. Once you get the code, if you did the homework like I suggest you to do, to get the CSS code, you're going to have the number, the 4-digit number. Then all you have to do is to enter that number. You're going to get the CSS code. And then it's going to clearly tell you, see that? Domestic undergraduate applicants accept, does not accept, right? And it tells you, do not fill this form if you are international. Let's say this one, international students accept, and the international graduate applicants do not accept. So this is just to double check, make sure. And then all you have to do is to select the university, and that's it. And then once you select, it's going to ask you 4 questions. And the first question is 2024 to 25 year in school. So make sure you just select the top one, the line 1. It says first year undergraduate, never previously attend university. So that should be your choice. And the second one, the assigned ID. This is the assigned ID of the school that you're applying, the college you're applying. So for many students, they haven't finished applying yet. So they don't have assigned ID. Don't struggle, just skip that. You don't have to answer. Now, what are your housing plans? Make sure that you select on campus, regardless whether it will be on campus or off campus. Select on campus to get the maximum financial aid. Just select on campus. The 4th question is simple. Students already know. Are you applying regular decision, early action, or early decision? So make sure you select that. So that concludes the academic information. Sometimes you have like 10 schools to enter, so just make sure that you enter the numbers. For CSS Profile, I must say though, it's pretty friendly when it enters the school. You can enter as many as you want. And you can enter 3 for now, later on just add the school. It's very easy to add schools. So don't worry about it if you don't have the full list. Enter what you have, like the EDEA first. And then later on, when you get the full list, you just enter. Parent income. Parent income. 1040 is your first tax return form that you need to have it ready. That's the tax return for the federal tax return. So not only the tax return, you need to get all schedules. Schedule 1, 2, 3 if you have, schedule CDE if you have, and make sure. And when you answer the income questions, there is so many, but you have to have your tax return form open. When you see the line that on your tax return form, it's 0, you can skip that question, because if it's not saying required, you don't have to answer that. But don't get me wrong. If on the line, let's say line 1, if you have a number, you must enter that number. You cannot skip, okay? Only skip if it's 0 and it's not require you answer. So make sure that you go line by line, everything answered. It doesn't hurt if it's 0, you just enter 0. It doesn't hurt, okay? Now, once you do the schedules, after you do the schedule 1, if you have a line 5 income, that's the other income. And they are gonna say, hey, since you reported on income on schedule 1, line 5, what is this income from? That's very important. And you need to know, if you're not very familiar with the tax return, you need to go to your schedule 1 and to see what is the income from. Majority of the parents may have rental real estate, that's the rental income. And a lot of time they have corporation from the S corporation. So once you click this S corporation, that's when you start opening a bunch of questions, very long, everything about your corporation. And that information is coming from your 1020, which is your business tax return. It's either the 1020S or the, no, sorry, is that 1120 or 1020? But yeah, it's the tax return of your business tax return. I think I might have a typo here. So at the end of this parent's income, they're gonna also ask you about your 2023 estimated income. Do your best to estimate it. It doesn't have to be accurate, but don't jump too high, right? I mean, because you don't know yet. It's not the end of the year yet. So make sure that you just give an estimate, and hopefully the number is close to the 2022 or lower and not too much higher, right? Housing information. Housing information is important, not like FAFSA. CSS Profile does ask a lot of information about the primary home and your rental investment homes. So what information they ask? Parents, you need to gather those information, right? Because sometimes we bought the house so long ago, we don't know when we bought it, and we don't even remember how much we bought it for. It asks you when your home was purchased and how much it was purchased and what's the current market value. Now, I want to pause on the current market value here. The current market value, how do we find the current market value of your home? Many parents said, I don't know, Lou. Can you help me? There is a lot of online tools that you can find your current market value of your home, like a Zillow, like a Redfine. There is a lot of the websites that you can get the current market value of your house. Now, make sure you choose the lower value one, right? You don't want to go high right now. You want to have the market value lower. It's helpful. And also take into consideration, and that is just the market value reference. Actual market value can still be lower than that, right? But be reasonable. I have seen some parents said, this is not fair. I bought the house for $300,000. Now it's worth $800,000. Why should I report $800,000? I didn't pay $800,000, so I should just write $300,000. You are not answering the question right. The current market value is no longer $300,000. That was the house you bought many years ago. So you need to stay current and accurate. It's very important, right? So it will also ask you about the total amount that you owe on this home, how much you still have mortgage, right? So make sure that you get the statement to know what is the mortgage balance and what is your monthly housing payment. So this monthly housing payment could be your mortgage payment. So make sure that you don't add any escrow fees in there, not the property tax. It's just your mortgage. And for rental, you need to put what is your rental, monthly rental fee. So pretty much simple, but then don't make mistake here. Now the student income, every time almost when we get to this question, the parents will pause, parents will shake their head, and they say, how do we answer it, Lou? I said, this is a very tough question. Let's just say this is probably the most difficult question in the entire CSS profile, because this question has no right answer or wrong answer. So let's see what this question is. It kind of stays in the student income session. So it's kind of a hidden. You want to make sure that you catch that. It's under the student resources. So this question basically, I mean, if you read it right, how much does the student name expect to receive from the following source to pay for the education expense for the 2024-25 academic year? So basically it's asking, how much is your parents willing to pay for your first year of school, right? So the instruction is to provide the best estimate. School want to know your budget. What is your budget? What do you think? Are you willing to pay more, less, or nothing, or everything? I mean, they just want to know. And I really don't know if this is going to matter at all when it comes to the decision making. But this is a tough question. We just have to admit it. It's a question that has no answer, right or wrong answer. So my advice to parents is be reasonable and be sincere. You don't want to be making $500,000 annual income and saying, I only want to pay $5,000 a year for my students' education. That is not reasonable. That is not sincere. And you also don't want to be making $50,000 income saying, I'm willing to pay $80,000 student education for the first year. And that is also kind of like a kind of interesting, right? Like, how do you get the money to pay? So be reasonable, be sincere, and do a calculation, and probably use your income's 20% as a golden rule and add some assets and adjust it up and down, however you like to. So this is my advice, one time only advice. Just keep in mind, it doesn't mean the school will provide the exact financial aid based on this number. So don't just overthinking, but just be reasonable, just be smart with it. And it's under student income, student resources. Very important question. Okay, special circumstances. Now, this is the only part in the entire form that allows you to elaborate and explain. So you can say a statement or you can explain a little bit. So be very truthful. If it only applies to you, then you do it. If nothing applies to you, don't try to, use this and write some comments that's not really significant, for your financial status. So be sure that you stay truthful. It's always very truthful, is important. If in the entire form, after you fill out the forms and you realize there is something that they didn't ask, but it's so significantly important about your finance, and this is the place that you can actually add under others. Others. If there is none, you click none, right? So I want to say change in employment is probably the most common one, because the income, everything about your income is based on 2022. So if in your family, one of the parents happened to lose the job in 2023, is unemployed, then this is the place where you want to put the explanation. Because 2022, yes, I had a salary of this, but I no longer have this job. I'm still searching for a job. So you will put changing employment. And this is a very valid special circumstances that you must fill in and to let the reviewer to know, right? And some family might have some exceptional medical and dental expenses, like if you go through some kind of a special treatment, and it take a huge chunk of your cash or maybe your savings to pay the medical bill. And this is the time you need to say who and what and how, just some information, taking care of the elderly in the family, right? And financially support the other family member when emergency comes. So those allow you to explain, which is good. I think FAFSA form doesn't have anything like that. It's just question and answer numbers, and it doesn't allow you to explain. I think I really felt like CSS Profile is so like friendly when it comes to filling out the forms. They give you opportunity to do this. So take that opportunity if you do have special circumstances. There is depend on the school your students are applying, and some schools will ask some supplemental questions. And I know Stanford is one that they always ask, what is the major that your student is going to pursuing in Stanford? And they also ask you, what is your career path? What do you think about you're going to do with this major? So that's a very interesting question. And I also have other schools that they wanted to know what kind of car your parents drive and what year is that? Is that a new car, old car, and are they paying for the car? Very strange. And for this instance, they're asking some specific question. I just snip it and I want to show the parents, different kind of question. And some schools, a lot of private schools do ask if you happen to have you're a trust fund baby or not. If you happen to inherit some money, large lump sum assets. So you will get questions very specific. Make sure that you answer that, because it really helps that school to evaluate you. And there is a reason that they ask you specific questions. So those supplemental questions depend on the schools. It can be a very long list. I have seen a parent just got lucky, like applying maybe 5 schools. 3 schools have supplemental questions and end up being 3 pages. It's like endless questions. How much you spend on clothing every year? I mean, ridiculous question, right? Okay, this is a very important thing for CSS Profile. So please pay attention. Be sure that you fill out the form correctly. Be sure that you don't make simple mistakes. Like we always say like silly mistakes, right? Don't make those mistakes. When you do this form, focus, concentrate. Don't be like watching TV or doing other things and do this form. This is a very important form. The reason I say that is because CSS Profile only start allowing us to make correction from last year. Last year was the first year that they allow students to make correction. And when you make the correction and they give you a drop-down list of why you're making the correction, and then you have to explain the correction and you have to make the correction, right? And I always say, it's very obvious when you make corrections. I mean, if it's a not very important mistake that you make, then it's okay. Sometimes it's about asset, about income. It's just kind of awkward because it kind of make your mistake big. Everybody's going to see that you made a mistake on that. And then the question is, why do you say that? Why do you say that this? And now you change it. It's just a lot of controversies, right? And the most important thing is for CSS Profile, you are only able to submit 1 correction per academy year. So you can't make corrections like FAFSA multiple times. So that correction is just 1 time. And once you're done, you want to make further corrections. Sorry, that's done. Book close, move on. And it's so much better already, because I remember last year was the first year they allow us to make correction. The year before, no corrections. Some parents fill out the form so quickly, full of mistakes. And they didn't realize. So it's too late. I just want to remind every parent here, just make sure that you do this very carefully. And I hope the session here also help you to see the steps of filling out the forms and what's important in the sessions. Now, what's next after you get your form submitted? And you will need to upload your document through IDOC. Now, one of the important ID number that you will get once you complete your CSS profile, it's called CB Fin8 ID number. And it's a letters and numbers combination. Very important that you take a note of that number because anything that associates with your CSS profile will use this number to reference. So very important when you later on e-sign the document and they will ask you for your ID, and that's the ID they're talking about. You will get the email, and that's the time you can start loading your document, or in the CSS profile main page, once the IDOC is ready and you're going to see this button, this kind of session, it says Institutional Documentation Service, IDOC, submit your document. So you can simply just click the submit your document button and start uploading your tax return 1040. Make sure with all the schedules, make sure it's an e-version. I have parents take photos. So many pages, it's photos. They do not accept photos. Okay, you make sure that you have the PDF file from your accountant, from your CPA. You make sure that you take out the cover letter. It's the first page should just be 1040, and then the schedules. That is the document that you need to upload. If you have 1099, they're going to ask you to upload 1099. If you have W-2 form, you need to upload W-2 form. For anybody that has no tax return and no income, like a W-2 form or 1099, you will require to sign the e-statement. So that process has to be complete as well. So it's either you provide the W-2 1040 and W-2 1040, 1099, or you will have to sign the statement saying, I don't have it. They just want to make sure. So you're going to see a lot of the red for a while because it's all the document waiting to be uploaded. It's all the signature that requires to be signed, e-signed. When you see this, all required documents have been submitted and are processed, that's pretty much the IDOC document session is done. It doesn't mean that your whole private school college financial aid processing is done, because some schools, like I know for sure USC, I know a lot of you apply for USC. Almost all students apply for USC, California students. I know for sure USC, they don't want you to upload the document through the IDOC. They want you to go to their school website and filling out a bunch of forms and upload document in their school site, in your student portal. So every school is different, and remind your student to be sure to check their emails, and any emails from the school financial aid office or from College Board, they need to take it seriously. Ignore it is not right option, okay? They have to take it seriously. Now, this is almost the end of my presentation, and I hope it really helps parents at least ease your whole processing a little bit, because I know it's complicated, it's difficult, it's just so exhausting sometimes, right? You got a million things, and but don't forget, as a HS2 students and the parents, you are awarded a free consultation with either me or my partner Pam. And I have already closed my calendar for November because I have a full list of students that providing the college financial service, but we are still accepting the HS2 parents. If you need a service from us, we can do it for you. We can help you, so you don't have to do it yourself. We will help you to complete the CSS profile, the FAFSA, everything. And this is the list of the service that we do. And 45 minutes consultation is free of charge for HS2 parents. So take advantage of it. I mean, even if it's even if you are not a senior parent, like a junior or sophomore or freshman, take advantage of that and have a one-on-one private counseling with one of us. You know, we will give you advice. We will give you some sort of direction. And that's the end of today's presentation in English. And I want to thank you all for your attention and wishing you all the best luck. Get into the best schools and get the maximum financial aid. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.